Hello and welcome back to my channel. If you are new, welcome.
I almost forgot my microphone, but I hope that y'all are doing well. And we are now in the month of March. It is March 1st today. I'm so grateful. I'm so happy. And I hope that y'all are feeling the same way. So let's go ahead and get into today's topic. I wanted to explore the evolution of alcohol references in hip hop lyrics. It went from the 80s where it was more like casual mentions to the 90s where it became kind of like a symbol of street culture. And then the early 2000s, it was like status symbols. Like you had brand deals, you had rappers getting partnerships. Like it became this big thing. And the references went from like 40-ounce malt liquor to champagne, like the more expensive luxury um, brand. I will be talking about the lyric references in hip hop from the 80s, 90s, and then to the 2000s and how it gradually increased. We won't be talking about the 70s because, well, they didn't really have any liquor references. They may have implied usage, like Rapper's Delight by Sugar Hill Gang, which came out in the 1979. So like they barely even made it to the 70s. Okay, but it was implied usage of liquor. It wasn't explicitly stated. So I feel like it's more beneficial to start in the 80s. So um, that's what we're gonna do. It is said that hip hop was birthed in the 80s and it was still in its early stages. Alcohol references at that time was more about celebration, very lighthearted, kind of rebellious. It wasn't really serious. They talked about drinking beer, maybe champagne in this time period. And y'all know I have my notes. I even have my laptop. So I'm going to list off some songs. This is the fun part. Um, okay. So we have Grandmaster Flash in The Furious Five Freedom from 1980. It does mention drinking beer. We drank some beers and had some fun. Run DMC live at the Funhouse, Colt 45, and some Brass Monkey. That was the lyric from 1983. Brass Monkey is a cocktail, so it's made with rum, orange juice, and vodka. And back in my day, I probably had a little swig, more than a swig. Iced tea, 6 in the morning, 1986, 40-ounce bottles on the curb. Easy E, Boys in the Hood from the 87, 40 ounce in my lap and it's reason my. So, you know, this time period, that's when street culture began to emerge. People were from around the way, inner city, and malt liquor, 40 ounce, was heavily marketed in our community, the Black community. So you see an emergence of people talking about it in their lyrics. So you see like so many songs had malt liquor, 40 ounce, all of that because that was in the community. That was what people were drinking. It was cheap. It had high alcohol content. So, we were drinking it. Another example, Public Enemy, Time Bomb from 87, Sipping on a 40. You had NWA, 8 Ball from 88, a whole song about Old English 800 malt liquor, a whole song. You had Big Daddy Kane, Ain't No Half Steppin' in 1988. So it was basically real life stories that were happening to these rappers, and they were just putting it in their lyrics pretty much. Alcohol was a part of their narrative. They were struggling, and it became kind of like a self medicating, indirect marketing to the consumer, to the listeners, right? Um, Late 80s, that is when it transitioned from just malt liquor, 40 ounces, to a more luxury brands like Hennessy. So you have Too Short, Life is Too Short from 88. Hennessy and Coke, that's what I drank. That was his lyric. You have Big Daddy Kane, Ain't No Half Steppin'. I believe he was also talking about more of the luxury brands in that song. So late 80s is when you kind of hear more of the Hennessy.
So, a little bit of an edit. I wanted to add additional songs, just a few. The Message by Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, Girls by Beastie Boys. If I named all the Beastie Boys songs that involve like alcohol, we would be here all day. Funky Cold Medina by Tone Loc, and I Need a Beat by LL Cool J. So when I was looking up these songs, not all of them were necessarily saying that they were drinking, but it was some of it was in reference. And I think that this points out that the 80s and the 90s is so different because you don't find a lot of songs with liquor, but you do find songs in the 80s. So I just want you to notate that and keep that in your mind because once we go to the 90s, you'll see how, the song, a lot of it becomes a lot more. So this is just a little edit.
I'm a millennial and I'm a very proud millennial. I feel like being a millennial is dope. We were born in a time where things were transitioning, more specifically technology and, of course, music. Everything was just changing. In the 90s, we still had gangster rap. That was more so in the West Coast. It turned into a status symbol in the East Coast. So you had more luxurious brands, more hard liquor. And 90s is my favorite era. If someone calls you 90s fine, oh, you fine. Okay. But so let's talk about some songs from that era. You had Dr. Dre, Nothing But a G Thing. This is from 92. Rolling down the street, smoking Indo, sipping on gin and juice, laid back. Everyone knows that song. Everyone knows that song. You also have Snoop Dogg, Gin and Juice from 94 or 93. Everybody knows that song. Everyone knows it. Some of y'all were probably singing it and had no busy singing it back in the day. Okay? Like me. You had Tupac, Thug Passion. He says Hennessy mixed with Alizé for a Thug Passion. So that drink became very popular in that time. You had Nas, Life's a B, 94. Drinking Hennessy. My memory is blurred. He talks about Hennessy. Hennessy is very, very popular back in the day. And I know that they made their sales increase drastically when the rappers were talking about it. Notorious B.I.G., Big Papa from 94. Notorious is my favorite. We can drink a whole lot of Alizé and Hennessy, and enemies is the recipe. So that was that song. Everyone knows that song. Let's go to some more. So we have Jay-Z, Can I Live in 96. He references Moet. You have The Lox, Money, Power, and Respect, 98. We sip champagne because we thirsty. Diddy, Puff Daddy, whatever he went by at that time, All About the Benjamins from 97. Sipping on Booze in the House of Blues. We will come back to him and his branding. DMX, How It's Going Down, 98. Have Me Drinking Hennessy, Puffin' Trees. E40, Hurricane, that was in 95. So, so much alcohol.
So I wanted to add additional songs just so you can understand that it's way more songs in the 90s that reference alcohol than in the 80s. So we have I Get Around Tupac. We have Murder Was the Case, Snoop Dogg. The Humpty Dance, Digital Underground. We have What's Your Name, Don Omar featuring Snoop Dogg. I Want to Get High, Cypress Hill. We have No Limit, Top Dog, Snoop Dogg. We Be Clubbin', Ice Cube. Big Pimpin', Jay-Z featuring UGK. Drinking Partner, Little Flip. So just so you can see how many more songs in the 90s than the 80s.
And I have to talk about this. We go on social media every day. Most of us go on social media every day. We have content creators who are constantly trying to influence us. They have a title now, it's called influencers. And you go on social media, and all day, every day, you hear and see people trying to influence you to purchase something. Now, think back into the 90s where there was not any real social media. This is what was influencing our community. You would go and pick up bottles because that's what you heard your favorite rapper, singer, whomever it was, singing about it. So you would go and get these bottles of Cristal, Moet, Dom Perignon, Hennessy, whatever it was, so you can feel closer to the experience that they were having in their lives. You didn't have money, you didn't have yachts, you didn't have whatever that they were displaying to you in these videos, but you could go and pick up a bottle. And that was the listener's way of experiencing their favorite rapper's lifestyle. And it's still happening today, but it's just a extreme like way they want to influence every single thing that you purchase, no matter if it's household, music, food, they're coming for anything. Hip hop definitely became more commercialized in this time. It definitely became more of a status symbol. Instead of having the malt in the 40 ounces, you had more of the Cristal, more of the Moet, more of the Hennessy. So it transitioned from street life onto more of a luxury life towards the end of the 90s. The main difference between the 80s references and the 90s is the alcohol preference. So you had beer in the 80s, malt liquor more. In the 90s, that's when you turn from the more lower class, I guess you can call drinks, to more of the high quality, which is the Cristal, the Moet, the Hennessy, luxury brand. So that is the main difference. So you went from more light drinks to heavier hard liquors with more alcohol concentration. I hate to have to do this to y'all, but I will be back with part 2 of the series when I will be discussing the 2000s. And this is going to get spicy. We have brand deals, we have endorsements. Things get heated up in the 2000s. And, you had to be there. But I will be back soon, and you all be well.